There are places in Latin America where mothers still call their children inside before nightfall, where the sound of weeping echoes across rivers, streets, and time itself, where 5 centuries of history, culture, and tragedy converge in one haunting cry.
Oh, my children.
This is no ordinary ghost story. It is the legend of La Llorona, an eternal wail that transcends generations and borders. And tonight, we journey deep into the heart of her tale. To understand La Llorona, we must go back, not just to the Spanish conquest, but to the very heart of pre-Hispanic Mexico, a time when powerful civilizations like the Aztecs and Mayans wove supernatural tales that mirrored the eternal dance between life, death, and water. In Aztec myth, there was Cihuacoatl, the serpent woman, who wandered the streets of Tenochtitlan dressed in white, weeping for her lost children. She was both a symbol of maternal grief and a deity connected to water, fertility, and death. The serpent was sacred, for water is both life and death. The Mayans, too, had their version, Ixtabay, a spirit who lured men into her grasp, leading them to a watery grave. Central Mexican legends told of Matlatzihua, a lake spirit claiming those lost to the water. These figures weren't just stories, they were cultural icons, embodying the cyclical nature of existence.
These female spirits were representations of the complexities of life and death. In the indigenous worldview, water was not just a source of life, but also of destruction, much like La Llorona herself.
When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, they brought with them their own ghostly figures of weeping women, mujeres plañideras. But it wasn't just the myth that evolved. The legend of La Llorona became a vessel for the trauma of colonization, a haunting reflection of the atrocities committed against the indigenous people. The earliest recorded mention of La Llorona comes from a 1570 manuscript where a Spanish friar describes a weeping Indian woman. But this story would take on new, more tragic dimensions in the colonial context. The myth morphed into a symbol of indigenous resistance, a cry of grief in the face of Spanish cruelty.
The story of La Llorona, as we know it today, was born out of colonial trauma. In the 17th century, there were accounts of a woman who drowned her mixed-race children to protect them from Spanish cruelty. This wasn't just folklore, it was a form of resistance, a way for indigenous people to express the unspeakable horrors they faced.
What makes La Llorona so powerful is how she transforms. She's not confined to one version, one place, or one time. She has become an archetype, a figure who transcends borders and morphs according to the cultural lens through which she's viewed. In Guatemala's highlands, she is La Ciguanaba, a seductive woman who lures unfaithful men to their doom, only to reveal a grotesque, skeletal face. In Honduras, she merges with La Sucia, a river spirit, warning of death's approach. In Venezuela, she's linked to the high-altitude mist of the Paramo, her cries haunting the lonely mountain air. In Colombia, La Llorona is tied to specific historical tragedies. During the violence of the La Violencia period, she symbolized the mourning for the victims of political strife. In Xochimilco, Mexico, she is seen in a white canoe, weeping among the ancient canals. Local resident Maria Herrera recalls one chilling encounter.
The canoe moved without anyone rowing. Her dress glowed like moonlight on the water. When she turned, Dios mío, where her face should have been, there was only darkness.
At its core, La Llorona is more than just a ghost story. She is a mirror, reflecting society's fears and unspoken truths. For centuries, the legend of La Llorona has carried a message of resistance and social commentary. In versions where she drowns her children to avenge a wealthy lover, she symbolizes class struggle, the oppressed striking back at the powerful. In modern retellings, La Llorona is a symbol of social justice, particularly in Latin America's ongoing fight for women's rights. During protests against femicide in Mexico, demonstrators have donned the image of La Llorona, using her to call attention to the suffering of women and the societal apathy toward their pain. La Llorona is both a cautionary tale and a feminist icon. To the wealthy, she is a reminder of the consequences of exploitation. To women, she embodies both tragedy and strength, her voice an echo of resistance against patriarchal oppression. Despite her ancient origins, La Llorona is far from fading into the past. In the digital age, she has found new life in the hearts and minds of millions. In Mexico City's Condesa district, food delivery workers exchange stories of nighttime encounters, often shared in WhatsApp groups. In Monterrey, security cameras occasionally capture mysterious figures near water features, ghostly apparitions that leave no trace. But La Llorona's most powerful transformation has been on social media. The hashtag La Llorona has sparked viral videos, some seemingly authentic, others clearly hoaxes, but all drawing millions of views. Her image has become a symbol not just of fear, but of social movements, particularly those demanding justice for women. Today, La Llorona is recognized as an integral part of Latin America's intangible cultural heritage. Museums and cultural institutions across the region preserve artifacts and art inspired by the legend. In Xochimilco, the famous night tours, where guides recount La Llorona's tales as boats drift through moonlit canals, have become a celebrated tradition. These performances not only keep the story alive, but also support local economies and sustain a vital oral tradition. Yet, commercialization raises concerns. As Dr. Ramirez notes,
We must be cautious. La Llorona belongs to the people, their fears, their hopes, their struggles. We must ensure her story remains true to the community, not just to the tourist dollar.
5 centuries have passed, yet La Llorona's cry still resonates. She is many things: a ghost, a cultural icon, a symbol of resistance. She is a reflection of our deepest fears and our most profound hopes. Her voice carries across time and space, reminding us that the most powerful stories are those that adapt, that evolve, yet still touch something timeless in the human experience. Tonight, somewhere, a mother calls her children inside as darkness falls. Water flows beneath bridges and through ancient canals. And perhaps if you listen closely, you might hear her cry.